Donald Trump is losing his grip on reality and on his MAGA base as well, because it's not just voters who are turned off by Trump in this moment. It is the top levels of leadership in the GOP. It is why, as Donald Trump tries to gerrymander Indiana, Republicans in the state Senate are telling him no. And so Donald Trump enlisted his lackey, J.D. Vance, to go and try to fix that. He failed. So who did Trump call up next? Mike Johnson, who is once again screwed Donald Trump. And it is why Trump is melting down just a week after Johnson screwed him on the Epstein vote. We are going to get into how Trump is losing his mind at Mike Johnson. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Trump's meltdown at Mike Johnson, who has once again failed him, I want to start with the Democrat who helped make it possible, this fight back against gerrymandering. It was Pete Buttigieg calling out those Indiana Republicans right here.
I would call it shameless. I was going to call it shameless. But then I started reading between the lines in some of the things that our Indiana State House Republican members are saying or not saying, and I realized they are, in fact, ashamed of what they're doing. They ought to be ashamed, and they are. They don't want to have to stand up in front of Hoosiers and say, yeah. They don't want to have to stand up in front of the people of Indiana and explain why, of all of the things they could do, the power that they have gained by being in these offices, that this is what they did. They don't want to answer for being controlled by Washington like this. And so they're hesitating. Even with all the pressure coming their way from Washington, a lot of them haven't quite committed to doing the deed. And that's where we come in. Now is our chance to talk to, yes, get a hold of your legislator, but also get a hold of your conservative cousin who knows just as sure as you do that this is wrong, and have them get a hold of their legislator. It is time for all of us to encourage our Republican friends in this state house to show some backbone before it's too late. Because they could still do the right thing. And if they do, we should give them some credit for it. I mean, it's a low bar. Refrain from cheating is a low bar.
The reason why Donald Trump is so powerless in this moment, besides the obvious fact of his clear cognitive and physical decline, and also the fact that Democrats like Pete Buttigieg are stepping up, is that Republicans who used to always be afraid of Donald Trump's posts, his tweets, his angry attacks, are not really that much anymore. Sure, there's a little bit of fear, but they're worried a lot more about the general election than they are their primaries, which is why when Donald Trump attacks Indiana Republicans with a threat like this, well, the result is what you'd expect. Trump most recently wrote on Truth Social, "I am working with Governor Mike Braun and other Indiana Republicans on picking up 2 Republican congressional seats. The governor, a good man, must produce on this, or he will be the only governor, Republican or Democrat, who didn't. I won Indiana in a landslide, the most votes ever gotten in the state. Such an honor. A Rhino State Senator, Roderick Bray, who doesn't care about keeping the majority in the House in D.C., is the primary problem. Soon, he will have a primary problem, as will any other politician who supports him in this stupidity. Thank you for your attention in this matter, Donald Trump." So that tweet used to be the nightmare for a Republican. They would wake up in a sweat thinking about a primary challenge against them directed by Donald Trump. But the difference now is Donald Trump doesn't have that level of political capital. The Epstein scandal, the Epstein cover-up, it has taken up everything, and Donald Trump can no longer direct his MAGA base like he used to be able to. And so he called up J.D. Vance. That didn't work. Now he's calling up Mike Johnson. That's not working, and it's why he's furious, and I want to get into it all. Mike Johnson set to huddle with Indiana Republicans amid redistricting fight. House Republicans are expected to talk with Johnson on a conference call at 1 p.m. Saturday before convening on December 1st. A spokesperson for Johnson did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Politico reported last week that Johnson called GOP Indiana Senate President Pro Temp Roderick Bray last Wednesday after Bray, whose caucus has largely resisted redistricting, said Senate Republicans would not convene to advance new maps. In the call, Johnson expressed the importance of holding Republicans' thin majority in the House ahead of the midterms, according to Bray. Indiana Republicans are weighing redrawing the 1st and 7th congressional districts, potentially yielding Johnson 2 additional seats. But earlier this week, Bray reversed course, saying the caucus would make a final decision on redistricting when they are expected to reconvene on December 8th, though multiple Indiana Republicans close to the process, who spoke on the basis of anonymity, told Politico that they believe the Senate is still a handful of votes away from having support for the matter. And with all of this chaos around the Epstein vote and this gerrymandering fail, Donald Trump is furious, raging that Democrats have outmaneuvered GOP lawmakers and set a trap for him. And in many more ways than one, Donald Trump is right. Democrats have outmaneuvered him. They have bested him. Donald Trump said that he wanted at least 5 seats out of Texas. He instructed Greg Abbott to go get them. That is blowing up in his face, not only because this map that he wants might not come to fruition, but also because even if it does, some of those close seats that aren't 100% Trump County, Trump country, Trump districts, they could flip blue. So the seats specially designed to keep Democrats from winning them might, in this political environment, because things are so bad for Donald Trump, flip blue, completely negating how far out of his way Greg Abbott went to try to help Donald Trump. But also think about that. Think about the political conditions that have changed since this summer to the point that Donald Trump is so unpopular and he has put such a stink on his party that a seat carved up to guarantee a Republican won it might flip to a Democrat. That is crazy. That is collective action. That is a shift in public opinion we have never seen. That is truly crazy. So yes, Donald Trump in more ways than one has been outmaneuvered, and Mike Johnson in more ways than one has been outmaneuvered, and Donald Trump is furious with him. But what Donald Trump doesn't realize, or maybe he does, because he said it before, Mike Johnson is Trump's puppet. If Mike Johnson is failing to get people in line, it is because they do not have respect and are not afraid of Donald Trump. So what Indiana Republicans said is doubling down on the "we are not going to listen to you, Donald," by saying it not just to J.D. Vance, not just to Trump directly, but to his little puppet Mike Johnson, wasting his time trying to get them to move, but it is not going to happen. That is the reality that Donald Trump is reckoning with right now. So he can lash out at Mike Johnson, he can attack him, be angry, be upset, all that he likes, but he is facing a new political reality. And that is one in which he cannot push around Republicans like he used to be able to do, where the threats of primary challenges do not keep them up at night, where they are actually motivated, in fact, to speak out against Donald Trump because it scores them political points ahead of what might be the most devastating midterms yet for the Republican Party. Those are the conditions that Donald Trump is under right now. It is why he is more radical than ever. It is why he is lashing out more than ever. It is why he is furious when Democrats instruct troops to disobey illegal orders, because Donald Trump knows he needs every tool in his bag to be able to try to steal these midterms, and sending out troops to harass people at polling places is certainly part of that. But Donald Trump can only go so far. He can only do so much when even his own coalition is splintering. And really, that deserves a big old smile and a little bit of this, and a little bit of the old Gavin Newsom dance. And speaking of which, the guy who launched this fight, pushing back against Donald Trump, who said we're not writing an op-ed, not a strongly worded letter, we're not going to cry a little bit then move on, we're going to actually do something about it for once. Gavin Newsom actually spoke on this and what Democrats need to do going forward to preserve this backbone. I want to take a listen right here.
I didn't know it was going to be.
I mean, the first poll was 38%, just to underscore that. And again, because I, like many, agree with you.
support independent redistricting. But you can't do it state by state with one arm tied behind your back. You can't unilaterally disarm as other people are not playing by the rules. Donald Trump and Republican governors across the country, governors not just in Texas, but you're seeing what happened in Missouri. You see what happened in North Carolina. Obviously, what's going to happen in Indiana, likely, and then Florida. They're not screwing around. They're consolidating power. And we were sitting there, and I think Donald Trump did not expect what Californians did. He thought we would try to win an argument by writing an op-ed, maybe express disdain and concern about the country. I don't expect
that is the Democratic Party of...
Yeah, of old. And I think that's the bottom line. And I think this moment, what happened on Tuesday, represents a new moment. Clarity, conviction, purpose, energy, on our toes, not on our heels, a resurgent Democratic Party. And it's a party that understands what's at stake for our democracy as we go into the 250th anniversary of our founding fathers. And I think that kind of momentum and direction is, I think, really going to enliven people in the next year.
It does seem like Democrats see fight in you, and a lot of them seem to be, at least the ones we just saw upstairs in Texas, like the fight. I mean, Congressman Al Green introduced you as a future president of the United States.
It's very generous words. Look, with humility, let me say two things. I disagree marginally with the premise of your question. This is the Election Rigging Response Act. This was not a fight we chose. This is a fight we felt was important to fight. Proposition 50 was never on the docket. It was not part of the agenda. For me, though, it goes back further. Goes back to the federalization of the National Guard. And I want to remind folks, it's not 200 or 300. In California, it was 4,000 National Guard were federalized. 700 active duty Marines were not sent overseas. They were sent to the second largest city in the United States of America. We kicked off the campaign, and Greg Bovino came out, and Border Patrol and tactical units at the Democracy Center to quite literally intimidate people from walking in. With the clarity, the understanding, this sort of the fundamental visceral understanding of this moment became crystal clear in June. And so this is an extension of that. And I think more and more people are waking up to what's going on. And I said it up there. It's not about the rule of law anymore. It's the rule of Don. He's picking and choosing, deciding which court decisions he agrees with. He's quite literally running an extortion racket. And not just with universities like UCLA and others in California, but he's doing it with law firms. He's doing it with media organizations. He's doing it with some of the most well-heeled and powerful corporate leaders. You're seeing state capitalism, not just crony capitalism. There's the one thing everything has in common, the tariffs. The tariffs for him are all about leverage and about the game that he's advancing, ultimately that inures to his personal advantage and his family's advantage as well. It's all happening in plain sight. And so for me, I have more clarity as it relates to this moment. Prop 50 was part of that. The outcome was meaningful. The outcomes all across the country, I think, just give us more confidence as we move into the future.
That is what we need to hear. That is what Democrats need to be doing. We have an opportunity to bury this administration, not just in the midterms, but before. And I'm going to relish in that. And we're going to be talking about it every day. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.